Every camera has a breaking point. And today we're going to be talking about Komodo, the red Komodo. For no other reason than to take that je ne sais quoi lure and attraction that we all have for red cameras, and for myself as a professional, to remember and understand that every camera has a breaking point. We'll take a look at exposing for the talent and what that will actually do for your scene. And then we're going to compare it to what happens when you choose to expose for the highlights and what that actually does to your workflow. Welcome to Quick Takes Komodo Edition. If this is the first time checking out the channel, thanks for stopping by. What we're doing here is building a community of filmmakers, content creators, and professionals at all different levels where we can share content, knowledge, and information so that we can all level up together. If you're into that type of thing, consider subscribing. Komodo. It's a red camera. Red cameras are known for their exclusivity, community, and badass marketing. 16 plus stops of dynamic range. 16-bit color. 4K, 5K, 6K, and even 8K VistaVision. All available in REDCODE RAW. Red cameras shoot blockbusters like Guardians of the Galaxy. And every single one of us who has been lucky enough to either own a red or rent a red has managed to post at least one selfie on Instagram. Guilty. Maybe even more than once. Now that Komodo is live and breathing and hitting the streets, more and more people are trying to sort out how it is that they can become part of that, previously elusive or difficult to get into community. So let's get one thing out of the way and make it crystal clear for everyone who's going to be watching this video. I believe that Komodo is an incredible filmmaking tool. I'm making this video for two reasons. The first reason is to help people like you, sort out and internalize where it is and how it is that a tool like Komodo might fit into your existing projects, the types of projects you're shooting now. And the second reason is actually a little selfish. I'm teeing up a new Quick Take series where we're going to be comparing a number of other cameras. And I figured this would be a good benchmark so that we had something to measure against. There are a few things you need to know. This is a very difficult shot for every single camera that I have ever owned or operated. In the first shot, exposure is fixed at f2 right on the gray card. The snow being hit by direct sunlight in the background is at f57. The dynamic range difference between f2 and f57 is more than 9 full stops, but less than 10. Red cameras are known for having 16 plus stops of dynamic range, but don't get it twisted, because all of those 16 stops are not allocated to the highlights. That statement actually applies to other cameras too. In other words, when camera companies are telling us what the dynamic range of the camera is, they're not saying you have 16 stops into the highlights. They're measuring based on how many stops go into the highlights and how many stops go into the dark areas of your frame, and then totaling that up. So what that should mean to you is that even Komodo, in this extreme example, likely will clip some highlights. And of course, we all want to know, did Komodo in fact clip the highlights? And the answer is actually both yes and no. The reason for it is that it really depends on how you choose to tackle exposure. If I choose to expose for my scene, my gray card, which as I mentioned is locked in at f2, then these are the results. And many people would say, you're shooting in RAW, so just recover the highlights in post. So I figured I would show you what that looks like. And while I'm covering this topic, yes, it is true that ISO doesn't really matter when you're exposing a red camera, because it's really a brightness value. But what people fail to either understand or point out is that ISO is needed so that you can then determine whether you have enough light or enough ND to help you expose for that scene. So throwing out comments like, it doesn't matter if you expose at ISO 800 or 1600 or 200 are actually not true. And the reason why it matters is that if you don't have enough light to expose properly, or you don't have enough NDs to expose properly, you will not be able to sort out that exposure formula to get you the best results out of your red. And this is why I always choose ISO 800 when I'm setting up my exposure on a red, because I know that my light kit and my ND kit are enough to help me sort out that exposure formula. So let's get back on topic. And here's something you're not going to hear me say very often. Exposing for the talent is not always the best decision. And I'm saying that because of something I've mentioned a lot on this channel. Blown out highlights make everything look like video. And blown out highlights will never be a creative choice that I make. So what's our option? Simple. Expose for the highlights. And this is what that looks like. And since we captured in REDCODE RAW, just to make a point, we can increase the ISO in post, right? Well, this is what that looks like. Red cameras have this thing where ISO may not matter, but changing that ISO in post-production will affect the color shift and tint shift that happens on your image. And what about noise? Can you handle it? Personally, I can't, which really means on that shot, I don't have an option. I have to run noise reduction. And yes, in this case, we're taking a 6K image and downsampling to 4K, but that is simply not enough to deal with the noise. So let's apply noise reduction. And keep in mind, that has now affected our workflow, which in turn has added a significant amount of time in post-production. I used Neat Video to clean up the noise in that shot. And that clip, the entire clip, took more than 90 minutes. More than 90 minutes. I just want to make sure that I say that so that you all understand. More than 90 minutes to clean up that clip using Neat Video and Resolve on my $25,000 Mac Pro. The upside is, this is what the clip looks like. What do you guys think? Is it good? Is it bad? The fact is that a shot like this becomes the great equalizer. And it puts things like marketing jargon, raving YouTube reviews, and our own lust to go after tools like Komodo in check. And this is the shot that we're going to be using to compare other cameras from Sony and Canon. Which one will come out on top? You may want to subscribe because we have to tackle that in a different video. I'm Carlos, and I will catch you guys in the comments. Take care.